Got this going on, all kinds of different stuff, so bear with me. All right. Live on three things. Sorry if I'm not looking at the camera. I got three different cameras looking at me. I'll eventually get this tied into where I can look at all of y'all at the same time. Anyway, going to do another podcast. So let's jump into it. This one's going to be on responsibility. Hope y'all enjoy. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the podcast, 15 to Life, the podcast where we talk about life after having a life sentence in prison. I am your host, Tito, and let's jump into it. So this is another Motivation Monday motivation. Today we're going to talk about responsibility. So I don't care where you're at in your life, right? I don't care how old you are. You could be a 4-year-old kid, 44-year-old adult, hell, 104 for that matter. It's never too late or too early to start taking responsibility for your life, right? Now, don't get me wrong. There's some issues with that, right? We have people that they don't like taking responsibility. You know why? Because I love Dave Chappelle. Anyone who's listened to these or have watched me or knows me knows I love Dave Chappelle. So Dave Chappelle, says he's a victim blamer, right? People do things and they blame, they become victims or they are the victim or whatever, right? So we have a tendency to put things off on, other things, right? And you guys hear me talk about the book of life and you hear me talk about, you have a book of life and you can either let other people write your book or you can write your book. And my big question for everyone is, who do you really want writing your book? Do you want someone else doing it or do you want to do it yourself? You know what I mean? And it's something that has boggled my mind for a while, right? Because none of us like to take responsibility or own up to our failures, but we sure as hell love to do it when it comes to our victories, our successes, right? And I just think it's one of those crazy things where how can you learn if you don't acknowledge and accept your failures, right? So, and I'm doing a podcast, but I'm going to shout out, hey, Tiffany, I see you waving. What's up? I'm also streaming this on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram right now as well. Feel free to check out all those, all under 15 to Life. Anyway, getting back into it. So I've told this story a little bit, so I'm going to go through it quick. But while I was in prison, my parents helped me out and paid for some classes from Ohio State. And I used every excuse in the book as a reason why I couldn't study and why I couldn't be successful in doing that, right? I was a grown-ass freaking man, and I was in prison. Yes, a shitty environment. Yes, there were plenty of distractions and things that might hinder someone from being good at focusing, right? But the reality was is I played off all that and I totally just fell into it, accepting no responsibility for myself as a man, as a human being, as someone who wanted to be a student or anything else. And therefore I wasted like $1,300 of my parents' money. Sorry, mom and dad, to this day, I'm sorry for that. Totally wasted that. Hell, I don't even think I finished reading the books, and I couldn't even tell you what the hell the classes were. It was a while ago now, 20 something years. But anyway, total waste of their money, their time and efforts, and mine. But more importantly, my lack of taking responsibility for that failure or that inability to seize an opportunity and move forward hindered my growth at the time. So fast forward many years later, right? About 9 years later or 10 years later when I got out of prison. And my plan B was to go to school because I figured if I can't get a job, I'll go to school and then hopefully the school will help me get a job because I'm an ex-felon, et cetera, right? So, yeah, so I couldn't, no one would hire me. I checked the box. I'm an ex-felon, and people were like, "We don't want you." And so I said, "You know what?" I started calling other guys that I knew from inside that had already paroled, and one person told me sign up for school because you can do it online, and at least you can start getting your college stuff out the way. So I did that, and then I got a job, and I was told by everyone that I wouldn't be able to do both. Even my mother and father. I love you guys, but you guys were ass backwards wrong on this, because they had the nerve to tell me that I wouldn't be able to do both. Ha ha! I didn't do it once. I did it twice. I got 2 degrees. But anyway, that's because I took responsibility for my life, right? So in prison for a long time, I didn't take responsibility. Hell, even my prison sentence, I had a life sentence. I was convicted of murder in the 2nd degree. I had 15 years to life, i.e., that's why everything here is called 15 to life, whatever you're watching me on or listening to, right? So I had 15 to life, and I was okay with that. Now, don't get me wrong, I took responsibility. I listen to the other podcast, you'll hear more of the story, but I shot and killed basically my best friend. I would have never done it intentionally, and that's a whole nother story, but I took responsibility that I did it, right? So I was okay with the time. So in that sense, I did take responsibility. But once I got to prison, instead of continuing to take responsibility for my life, I just accepted the fact that I was never going home. And that was kind of okay. You know what I mean? It was okay for me to just be a lifer. And I totally bit in to what a lot of other lifers were doing, which was they were very anti establishment, fuck the man, get over on wherever you can. Don't work for them in one of these prison jobs because they're making money off you. It's slave labor, et cetera, et cetera. Evolved to a point where we could get out and be productive. You have to remember that in taking responsibility, we have to develop habits through repetition, right? So if you sit there and do something and feel a certain way over and over and over again for days, weeks, months, years, that's what you're going to be. Hands down, that's what you're going to be. So when you're fostering all this discontent and you're allowing someone else to write your book of life, you're going to be unhappy and you're going to attract unhappy, right? You're going to attract negativity, whatever you want to call it, right? So I had to learn that. And I'm going to tell y'all, the reason why I do all these videos and the TikTok and everything else in these podcasts is because I'm hoping someone listens and maybe doesn't have to learn it the messed up way I did. I didn't get it until I was incarcerated for 7 years. 7 years. Imagine 7 years of your life being behind bars to figure out kind of what you had to do, not to be freaking president of the United States or not to be rich, just to be kind of taking full responsibility for yourself, right? 7 freaking years, 7 years. It's not a little bit of time. And that's why when people, ask me, if you would go back, would you change anything? Would you do anything? Well, one thing I would change, only one. I wouldn't trade the 12 years I did in prison. I would change that I took my best friend's life. If I could change that, I would do it in a heartbeat. I'd give my own life today to change that. But I wouldn't change the 12 years behind the wall because that helped get my mind right. So when you guys are thinking about, I'm responsible because I pay bills, I go to work, you know what I mean? I do all this stuff, you know what I mean? I'm a productive member of society. Well, are you really taking responsibility, or are you assuming that you're taking responsibility because you're doing what someone else dictates? Now, mind you, what's up, Nate Dogg? But sorry, I'm just responding to the people out there chiming in on here. But anyway, you got to understand that there's a bigger system in place, right? It's kind of like an ecosystem, right? So we do things because that's what's mandated for us to do, right? So we will keep going and going and going into these systems that we're told are the way that things have to be or should be, et cetera, right? And then we say, well, we're responsible because we're doing those things that we're told to do. I'm here to tell you, be responsible for your own freaking thoughts, right? When I say that, I mean, if you disagree with someone and you don't tell them because, let's say, they're your boss, right? You know, it's not easy to go to your boss and say, I do not agree with you. Here's why. You know, that's being a responsible individual, right? When someone says, uh, uh, you know, you're stupid because you support this or you support that, do you sit there and defend your point of view, articulate yourself? That's being responsible, because otherwise, don't put that shit out there, man. Like, for real, when it comes down to it, we all have opinions. A lot of our opinions are not really ours. You know what I mean? Our opinions were told to us by our parents, by our family, by our church, by whatever the hell it is, right? And then we just say those are our opinions, but in reality, all we're doing is reciting what someone else freaking told us. You know what I mean? I just did a little thing on this whole when we're talking about Black Lives Matter and everything else. Like when Colin Kaepernick first took a knee, I'm a big 49ers fan. I have been since I was a kid. Joe Montana, all that back in the day, right? I'm talking about 70s and 80s is when I started, right? Always been a Niners fan. So here, my team's quarterback, right, did something and I disagreed with it. I was like, hell no, he ain't no Patriot. He ain't this, blah, blah, blah. He shouldn't even be on the team, all this stuff. But I didn't know. I was listening to what everyone else was pumping out there, right? And then I looked into it and I learned about it, right? And I saw that what he was doing was not even for himself. Well, it was. I mean, he's black, right? But it was for the people that didn't have a voice for themselves. And he did it very courageously because he got all that heat and he still did it. He never stopped doing it, right? So then I totally went back on social media and I reversed and said, no, you know what? I support this man. Then he lost his job and I was like, holy crap. But I was on the other side of the fence before. So take responsibility for the fact that what you believe today might not be what you believe tomorrow. Never be so grounded in one thought or one ideology, right? Take responsibility for the fact that you are an individual, you're a human being on this beautiful, beautiful ball that we call Earth, and you have the opportunities to make a difference in the sense that let's put it to you this way. You're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, you're on Twitter, whatever the hell you're on, right? You probably got like a few hundred friends, right? Some of them are real friends, some of them aren't, some are, LinkedIn. I got like freaking 1,000 people on there. Hell, I've met a very small amount of them, and then half of them are just trying to push crap on me to make me buy for the business, right? But what I'm saying is when you speak to those groups, right, there's power in that. Don't abuse your power. Take responsibility for that. Put things out there. Now, some people might look at some of my posts and say, oh man, you just repost other people's crap. You're right. Sometimes it's jokes and giggles. Sometimes it's serious. Sometimes it's political. Sometimes it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. I just posted something the other day, and once again, I take responsibility for my shit, man. Like I said, the Colin Kaepernick thing, after I changed my view, I totally posted that. I didn't sit there and try to hide it and act like I never said that what he was doing was wrong. Hell no. Matter of fact, I said, you know what? Once I learned about what he was doing, it made sense to me. And now I support the individual. To this day, I support him. Matter of fact, I'm trying to find a freaking Colin Kaepernick jersey. Anyone got one that's like a 2X, 1X? I'll let your boy. Anyway, but taking responsibility will do so much for you. One, you will always feel better. Once again, like you disagree with your boss, you take that opportunity to speak your mind. And I'm saying this from a point, I've been terminated behind standing my ground and speaking my mind, and most importantly, standing up for the people that I worked for. And when I say that, I mean the people that technically worked for me, but I stood up for them. I took 100% responsibility for them because I was their leader. And when I got terminated, I was mad, but I felt good. You know why? I took responsibility for them. And I'm pretty sure if any of us had the opportunity to work together again, we would, one way or the other, right? So taking responsibility gives you that freedom of knowing you've got what you need out of the way, right? Your feelings have been put out there, and whether someone agrees or disagrees, you will feel better because you took the responsibility of communicating that. The other piece is when you do something stupid, own up to that shit, right? And I think, not to make this political, but I think that's why a lot of us have issues with our current president. He will say things and then contradict himself later and not go back and say, you know what, you're right. I just saw a recent interview where someone listed off like all the people he's supported or had in his cabinet that are now like convicted felons or going through the process. And he totally was like, oh, I wasn't involved with any of that bullshit. You brought these people, right? And I hate to say it, even someone like me who has been very outspoken about not supporting this president, right? He's still our president. And if nothing else, the position warrants a bottom level of leadership, nothing above that. You're a leader only because of your position. And once that position's gone, you ain't shit, right? That's John Maxwell, by the way. Read the book, 5 Levels of Leadership. Anyway, but he might gain ground with someone like me who is advocating against him if he just owned up to his shit. If he just took responsibility and he said, this was a bad decision. This wasn't, to say Mexico was going to pay for a wall and then turn around and dance around it for freaking almost 4 years and then say, oh, well, I never meant they were going to pay for it. That's what everyone thought you said, bro. Matter of fact, it's what you said. It's not like freaking 100 years ago where we didn't have everything on video and everyone can reshare it and tweet it and everything else. So anyway, getting back to the gist of it. So when we're really talking about responsibility, what I want you guys to know is, I had to go through a shitty place, i.e. prison, right? I had to go in there to really, really get what that meant. Not a good place. And I don't want anyone to ever have to deal with anything like that. But at the same time, there's a lot of shitty places that a lot of us are in today. And I want to tell you all, I feel you. I hear you. You know what I mean? People have been without work. Some people have been, they've fallen complacent because maybe they've been furloughed and receiving unemployment. And now that extra unemployment's gone. And so now you're hurting. I got people at my organization that weren't paying their bills because the bills were being waived. And once again, it's a big freaking misconception. And here's where taking responsibility comes in, right? I got one individual who's asking us if we can give him like a payday loan because his electricity bill is about to be like $600 because they were deferring it. And he just didn't understand, or he thought it was going to be forgiven. And now his shit's about to get cut off. On the flip side, they never said it was going to be forgiven. But people get drunk with the fact that, hey, I got extra money. I'm going to be doing this and the third. And so, you know what I mean? There's so many people that are financially illiterate and don't get, there is no free rides, right? And so, we're going back and forth, and I don't want this dude, he's got kids and stuff. So I don't want this dude to have his power cut off. Right. But at the same time, I'm like, there has to be measures in place because this dude only makes like $200 a week. He's a part-time worker. Like we give him $500-600 to pay this bill. What's going to happen? Right. But the sad thing is if he was taking responsibility and paying his bill, regardless whether they're letting him float on it, he wouldn't be in that situation right now. And what does he have? I don't know. I totally don't even know this individual. It was brought up in an executive meeting, so we were talking about it. I've never, like, if I've seen this guy, I don't know. I'm sure I have. But anyway, I can't help but think, damn, we failed as a leadership team. Why? Because we didn't take the responsibility to make sure that our team was educated on what was really going on and what the reality was going to be when things start clicking back into normal gear, right? I think it's absolutely absurd. Not to mention there's people that slowly are being brought up on charges for abusing the system. We had people in our organization not taking responsibility or abusing, that it's too busy around everything in the government for people to really follow up, that they were accepting unemployment even though they came back to work. Crazy, right? People trying to double up, not realizing, man, you're coming across local, state, and federal offenses with that, you know? So I just think it's an incredible freedom when you just start taking responsibility for things, and you will see things start to improve. Now, I'm gonna give a shout out to someone many of you probably have heard of or watch or whatever, like Gary V, right? Gary Vanderchuk, Vayner Media, does a lot of speaking, puts a lot of content out there for free. I watch all of his stuff, listen to a lot of his stuff, but he's always talking about dropping content. So I literally have 3 media outlets, technically 4. I got the podcast, I got YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram all going at the same time. So I'm trying to overload content. I'm not trying to monetize anything, people. This is me taking time out of my day and putting pen to paper to get some thoughts together to try to translate some of my life experiences for you guys, that can benefit you, and if it does, great. And if I start doing speaking engagements, hopefully y'all somewhere where you can hire me. But anyway, I really, and Tiffany, I see you. What are you talking about? All right, Tiffany said, but you have to factor in that when people were furloughed, too many get a minimum to get unemployment. Yeah. The whole furlough thing was crazy, and still to this day crazy. Great point, Tiffany. Shout out to you. Tiffany Walker, for y'all out there. I want to give her a special shout out. We worked together and she always pushed me to get this kind of stuff off the ground. So, hey girl, I'm doing it anyway. So something else with taking responsibility and understanding what's going on is we also got to look at, you got American Airlines. They had a bunch of people furloughed. They're about to term like 19,000 people. Geez, what was the other organization? There's another one that's doing like 18,000. So people are talking about this unemployment rates getting a little bit better. Like things are stabilizing. Hell, it's about to get worse because all those people are about to be unemployed. So shit's crazy out there, y'all. And we got people complaining about being critical workers. I'm one, and I'm happy that I'm at work. I'm happy that my weeks roll into one another because I'm willing to take that responsibility. I'm willing to be responsible for myself, for my family, and for anyone out there that wants to listen to what I got to say. So anyway, this is running over what I usually do for a podcast. So I'm going to wrap the podcast up. For all my podcast listeners, I appreciate you guys. I actually pulled up some stats, and it amazes me how many different countries around the world people have listened to me. I don't have a zillion followers or 10 million listens. I only have like 3,000 listens. But still, I appreciate each and every one of y'all. I will, as always, ask people to like, share, comment. I would love to get a bigger following, more importantly, so I can talk about some things that other people want to hear about, not just what I think y'all want to hear about. Not to mention, I do want to do, and I see some of the homies coming in and off on these live streams. I definitely want to get involved and do some probably Zoom meetings to get some other people on here to give some different perspectives, not just my own. Anyway, for the podcast, I love y'all. Stay motivated, responsive to bigger and better life, and the better you do for yourself, the better you can do for others. Be aware of your self-maintenance checklist, and that's mental, spiritual, and physical. Always stay on top of those things. I love you. Stay safe. Till next time. So that was the podcast, y'all. Literally just finished recording it. So thank y'all for watching, listening to an old man rant. I'm about to actually wrap this all up. Go get my workout in for today. So if you haven't already, check me out on YouTube. Check me out on Facebook. Hey Chris, what's up, brother? Thank you for the support. Check me out on Instagram. Please like, share, follow. I want this to be the best it can be for everyone else. It's definitely a relief for me. I get to get things off my chest and talk about things. Today is also my 4-year anniversary with my wife, so love you, Jamie. I made sure her and the kid were taken care of so I could come knock this out. So anyway, love y'all. Be good, be safe, and know that tomorrow will be better as long as you rock out today. So anyway, love y'all. And that's it, y'all. Just shut down everything else. Appreciate anyone who likes, follows, subscribes. And if you have any ideas, drop a comment and I'll definitely get to it. Sorry about the rough look. Become my hair after I work out. All right.